the fall of MDE, and then like, where do you go from there?
I don't really think I've talked about this online much yet, but I'm happy to do it. Because I finally come to terms with it.
The fall of MDE, and then like, where do you go from there?
Like right after MDE?
Yeah, well, like, I know that you definitely, like, were going through it, obviously, because it's definitely something, like, terrible.
Yeah.
And maybe just, like, not right after, but, like, what did you think? Like, what was the, well, what do I do now? Like, what's next?
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
So, I don't really think I've talked about this online much yet, but I'm happy to do it. Because I finally come to terms with it. Like, all this stuff that was going on was like, I mean, it makes sense, but it was really hard to like just understand and like manage all of this shit that's going on. So when MD ended, like, I didn't give myself time to like cope and like really sit down and think. Like, first of all, think about everything that we just did, how like crazy and, you know, awesome a lot of that stuff was, because everything is so fast during that we never really had time to be like, this is fucking great. Like, this is really cool. Because it's just like nonstop. You didn't have time to think. So even when it ended, I was just kind of like, I had this shitty mindset. I was young, so it's okay. But I was like, I'm better than this. Like, I don't need this. Like, this is totally, I can still be doing even better without it, you know? But that was just like me coping, because I didn't want to acknowledge like this is a really great thing that is now gone because of somebody else, you know, someone fucking it up. And you know, I definitely made my fair share of mistakes during MDE. I think all of us did. You know, if I was more mature during that time, maybe some things would be different. But nonetheless, somebody was still fucking it up, majority, and kind of, you know, did that. So yeah, I don't know. It took me years to just kind of understand everything that happened and kind of acknowledge it and know how to feel about it, because I didn't know how to feel. I didn't know to be happy that it happened, be pissed off that's, you know, it went bad, and I just didn't know how to handle it.
And then, like, when it ended, did you, like, still want to pursue, or did you think, like, I don't want this to end, or, like, I want to still be in the spotlight, or I want to do something like that, but, like, maybe you just, like, in your head can get to that point?
Yeah, I kind of just wanted to keep going. So without MDE, but post to my channel and just kind of keep doing the same thing. But I kind of just lost motivation, and I can't remember how long I took off after MDE ended. MDE ended, I went on Warped Tour in 2016, and then I was, I think, gone from YouTube for a couple of months, which wasn't my plan, but, you know, I was just kind of didn't know what to do, I guess.
I think it was only about a year, because you went on Warped Tour with Stay Happy, Stay Weird. And then, I don't remember, I didn't go to Warped Tour in 2017, did you? Were you on Warped that year?
Nope.
No? I think that's when you kind of took your personal hiatus, you know, from everything. Because I remember after MDE, and then, like, after, you know, Our World Away kind of didn't get off the ground, too.
There's
then,
a gnat
you know,
that just landed on my microphone. I'm really sorry. I'm being attacked by a fucking gnat.
I was like...
Okay. Sorry, go.
I hate when it tries to fly into, like, every orifice.
Yeah, just try to go in my fucking eye, dude. Okay, sorry.
But, you know, like, after, obviously, like, immediately after my Digital Escape, then there was my Digital Escape 2.0, which never saw the light of day because absolutely nobody wanted it.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you, Johnny, and Alex, you know, try to get Our World Way back together, like, kind of, you know, make their own thing. But I definitely think that there was some issues that hadn't been actually fixed before that started.
Yeah.
And so therefore it also just kind of came to like a slow stop. Like, you know, I think if you guys had waited a little bit longer and tried to talk it out a little bit more, then, you know,
Yeah.
because to me it didn't seem like any of you actually healed from what was going on. I feel like it was just kind of very quick
Mm-hmm.
to try and not lose the momentum,
For
you know.
sure. Yeah, Luke and Jordan were in that channel too, and yeah, I think you know what you said is very true. I can definitely speak for myself, and like, I didn't have time to. I was still shitty. I still had so much more growing to do, and just too immature to be jumping into that as fast as we did. It's a good idea to do so. So yeah, we don't lose momentum, but at least for me, I wasn't ready. I wish I was, you know, but
And like I don't think it's just you, because like basically everybody else did take a slight break, whether it was like a year long, a couple years long, like, you know, everybody at one point did stop making content for a minute, and then, you know, try to regain, like figure out what it was that they were doing and then continued. Because you know Shannon took like a very long hiatus, and Alex obviously is no longer on the internet, you know. And then Johnny, I don't really remember if Johnny took one or not. Probably not, because he's honestly always been in the spotlight.
yeah,
But you know,
he's good.
his content has definitely changed over the years, which leads me to believe that like the content that he was making right after was just maybe not like the content he's making now, obviously, because he's like, it's kind of like he's gone like this, and then like, you know, like now he's like back up, you know, living his best life. And but yeah, and then I think you in that time during OWA you were doing Warped Tour, and then after like OWA fell off, then that's when you announced that you were done, and like, you know, and you made this very big dramatic post about like all these things, and then I remember being like, why? Like no. Like, you ever see those like TikTok reacts where they're like
Yeah.
like that? And like basically just I as a fan was very upset with everybody, like at Brian, at like, you know, because obviously the reason why it didn't work out with you and OWA was because of, you know, disagreements that you had with Johnny and Alex, and you know, like those kinds of things. And I was mad at those guys, like basically just being like, well, now you guys, you happy with yourself? You took my favorite YouTuber away. Like, I hope you're happy. Like, this is great. And then like I was very upset about it for like quite a while. And you know, and then we weren't very, very close friends, so you know, I had no way of contacting you or messaging you or anything like that. So a year without Kyle, basically like about a year-ish, and then I think that's when you went back out on Warped Tour.
Yeah.
Again the following year.
Yeah.
And started streaming.
Yeah. I quickly want to say though, it's not anyone's fault that I was kicked from, or you know, the stuff from Our World Away happened.
Yeah.
I was immature. There was so much miscommunication. I was going through a lot. Everyone was going through a lot, and yeah, it's just, you know, it's what happened. Yeah, go ahead.
You guys like were all so young too that like as an adult now, if something like that happened to me and I like had to try and cope with it, it would take me much longer than that to like, you know, come back from it. And for you guys to be like teenagers, like 17, 18 years old, trying to, you know, hold on to what you had, because at the end of the day it was you guys that really made the channel, and it's something that you guys built, and because of one person it kind of all just kind of came crumbling down, and then now you guys are trying really hard to like keep it up. But then like you obviously none of you like had finished coping with everything and you know, coming to terms with everything, because you are children, and I would never expect children to like bounce back from it or know exactly what to do. I don't think I would know what to do as an adult. And you know, it like now as an adult it's very obvious that it was just like you guys really should have just taken the time to, you know, be in your feelings instead of worrying about, you know, losing your fans kind of thing. Like I definitely think that being pressured to like perform for everybody kind of hindered your, coping and, like grieving, basically.
Yeah, for
like,
sure.
It's definitely something to grieve
Yeah.
over. And like you guys were all so young that it like literally like was just, I couldn't imagine trying to jump right back in immediately. So definitely not blaming anybody, but as a teenager,
yeah, no, right.
Like, yeah, suck. Like, this is so lame. Like, I hate this.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, definitely like everybody is, human, and everybody gets angry, especially teenagers.
Yeah.
Like, I'm surprised there wasn't even more drama because you guys were all so young.
Right.
And like I was saying earlier, you guys did a very good job at hiding everything. Like, you guys never talked about anything. And, like, only, like, when it would come all crashing down, you would get a subtweet. Like, like, it's, like, never, like, actually like, added each other or whatever. Right. Like, very occasionally did you, but, but yeah, no, and then you took a year off, and then Warped Tour happened, and then you started going out with Stay Happy, Stay Weird, and streaming, because I remember you were live streaming, like, IRL streaming.
Yeah, and you were in one of the streams.
Yes.
In Warped Tour, whichever date that was.
It was in Phoenix.
Yeah.
I don't remember what day it was.
Me neither. But I remember you were...
a random... Yeah, I was there. A random Tuesday, probably. And I think the first year, it's just so, like... It was 120 degrees, I'm sure. Like, it was like 115 degrees, I'm sure. I try really hard to remember each Warped Tour because, like, those were, like, the best moments of, like, my teenagehood was, like, Warped Tour. And I tried to remember exactly, like, because I remember each individual time meeting you, but I have a hard time remembering exactly where or what was happening.
Yeah, right. So,
the first Warped Tour that we met was... in, I think it's 2017, maybe 16 was the year I didn't go. I don't really remember. There was one year where we moved on the day of Warped Tour and I couldn't go, and I was so pissed, and like I cried all day. And it was when I don't remember, but I don't remember what year it was.
We met in 2016's Warped Tour, I believe, because I had my fuck. I mean, I was on 2016's Warped Tour. I skipped all of 2017's.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, then that's what it is. Okay, so it's 2016 Warped Tour. I remember that year it was in a random field, and it was later in the summer. Normally, Warped Tour for me was like end of June, middle of June to end of June. But that year it was like, my cats are making a lot of noise. That year I think it was around this time, like August 1st or something like that. So it was a little cooler than normal, and it was already like raining monsoon season, and it was in a soccer field in Tolson. And I went by myself because I was going to online school at the time, so I didn't have to go to school in person, but all my other friends were already in school, and I had to go by myself. And technically I went by myself, like without my friends, but I actually went with this not random, but I mean like this girl that I met at an issue show. Right. She was 23 at the time. I'm 23 right now, and I couldn't imagine, like, actually I do have a 17-year-old friend. That's funny. Anyways, she picked me up, and then we went to Warped Tour together, but my mom was going to pick me up, but at the time my mom didn't have a cell phone. It was like really weird. My mom didn't want my grandma to call her, so she didn't have a cell phone. Okay. So, when I wanted to get picked up from concerts, I would email my mom for my phone. Jeez. And she was in school, so she was always on her computer, so she would get it immediately. But so I went to Warped Tour, and then we met, we just met in like a regular meet and greet kind of situation. It was just like, hi, take a picture, boop, all right, see ya. And then that was about it. And then I actually got basically abandoned at Warp that year, because like I said, my mom was picking me up, and then I went with a friend, but she had already left. And so I didn't realize that they weren't letting cars into the parking lot, so I basically had to run like half a block down the street to try and see if my mom maybe passed by time. But luckily, she literally pulled over to check to like just check with like one of the attendants like of the lot to
Yeah.
see what's going on and like if she could enter. And then like I saw her car in the distance, and I just like was sprinting
Yeah.
like all the way down this like dirt road in the middle of nowhere, because I was like, I'm gonna be lost forever if I can't fucking run. And I started screaming. I was like, Mom! Mom! And then like, you know, finally, like, luckily,
Yeah.
you know, by the grace of a higher power, I found my mother.
Nice. That's crazy.
And made it home. Yeah, it was very scary.
Yeah, that would be.
Because I was only 16. And then both of us skipped 17, apparently, and then 18 was the last tour, Warp Tour. Technically not the last Warp Tour, but, you know, like the full
real
tour.
one. Yeah.
And, you know, you at that point had, you know, kind of popped out of the MDE bubble into the Warp Tour scene, basically. And, you know, you're friends with Ron Radke, Franz, Tyler from Tyler Carter, you know, all these people on Warp Tour. What was that like? What was it like just kind of, you know, like how, as somebody who genuinely at this age can't join into a conversation with strangers, like how do you even like approach those kinds of social situations?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think I was really used to that style of like that like scene and hangout. So it wasn't really nerve-wracking to me to be, you know, talking with some of my favorite bands that I've been listening to for fucking ever now. But it was still fucking crazy to me, and I felt really grateful to be in that position to be touring on Warped Tour and hanging out with everyone. And it was really cool to see everyone just really accepting of a fucking guy that used to make YouTube videos, and you know, or I still did at the time, but I don't know. One thing I made sure not to do, because I'm a fucking fanboy of all these guys that I was hanging out with, I made sure to not act like it. Like I didn't the first time I see him, like, can I please get a picture? Like, you know, because I knew I had the whole entire tour, and I also know that when people are like hanging out at their buses and behind the scenes, like not on stage or at their meetup, like they just kind of want to chill and not see cameras everywhere. So I knew that from past experiences too, of being on like the MDE tour and stuff like that. So kind of just with that in mind, that's how, and just treating everyone like a human being as they are is kind of just the way to go about it, and not be nervous, you know? If you just look at Ronnie Radke and be like, he's really fucking cool, but he's a human being. It you gotta like kind of persuade yourself, be like, he's fucking a real person, like, you know? Yeah, you gotta talk to yourself.
Like that man took a shit this morning.
Yeah, I mean,
took a dump.
Right.
He poops. Everybody poops.
Exactly. So yeah,
that's mine for me.
Yeah.
Is like, you know, like when I would like, you know, when I think of celebrities, I'm like, sometimes like even as a kid, I would think like taking a fucking shit in the morning. I'm like, you know what? Beyonce's probably taking a dump at the same time as me.
Yeah.
You know, there's like a very good possibility that Beyonce's also pooping right now. You know, like Zac Efron pooping right now. Could be.
Yeah.
You know,
could be diarrhea too. You never know.
Yeah, I never really, like, I am a fangirl in, you know, but I try really hard to like definitely treat, you know, the people like human beings, because like they are at the end of the day, like,
yeah, you're good at it, by the way.
Beings.
I know you're a fangirl of like a lot
you.
of people, and you're, you know, really in the scene, but yeah, you're really you do good at it, you know. You don't make people uncomfortable. You never made me uncomfortable, and here we are now, you know. So yeah, you're good. There's like a happy medium, like, you know, you can be like a massive fan of someone and love all their stuff, but still, if you see them, you know, you treat them as a human. So you got the good right in the middle.
It's kind of like having a best friend where you're like, I know everything about you, but we're not going to talk about that right now. We're going to hang out right now.
Yeah,
right. But I also think of like, because I definitely see like, obviously because I am a fangirl and I am a fan and I, you know, hang out with lots of fans. sometimes I see fan behavior, like not in like a very derogatory sense, but a fan behavior as in like people who, are like and I used to do this a lot when I was younger. I think it's just like a more of a maturity thing, which is perfectly fine. Like you're obviously allowed as a child to play pretend and play imaginary, and when you're a young teenager, you're allowed to obsess and like, get excited over, bands. And like when I'm in line and I hear people talk about the band, it's like really fun and interesting to like be like, oh well, I met them this year and like they were like this and like, I was like so excited and like blah blah blah. And on this last Pierce Veil tour, I met Vic twice, and it was like interesting seeing all the other fans like interact with him and everything like that. And some people are just like super nervous where they like just take a picture and then like walk away.
Right.
And some people like me are chatterboxes and like literally want to tell their whole life story, which is very much me. But I'm gonna be honest, like a lot of the time I just black out. Like I said the last time, like we both met Vic together, and I was like, you're like, man, I can't believe he said that. And I was like, said what? And he's like, oh, that like he keeps that thing in like his house. And like I was like, he said that? Like I have zero recollection of ever saying anything like that. And like I must have like totally blacked out, like just trying to like remain in homeostasis of not combusting, like because you obviously are allowed to have those emotions, but you can also like hide them or mask them and like be normal. It's not easy, but it's definitely doable. And I think because I personally, whenever I see like a actual celebrity like in public, I don't go up to them because honestly, like I've seen Guy Fieri at Disneyland.
Oh yeah, I remember you telling me.
And like and like when you see them in public, it's just like, wow, look, there they go, let me continue on with my day. Like I really don't need to ask him for a picture. Like it's not gonna make his life any better, it's not gonna make my life any better. I'm just gonna chill right here. I like to point them out to Koa. I'm like, so and so is like that person over there, they're like famous or whatever, but like, and then we'll be like, all right. But I feel like that is part of it, and like maintaining your cool in the presence of somebody who's definitely like exciting to be around. What was your favorite like memory looking back on like Warped Tour?
I think just traveling around and like seeing a bunch of new places, because I really like to travel, and that was just a great fun way to do it, and just hanging out with some really cool, very nice people. I really miss all that for sure, especially now because like I don't fucking go outside very often anymore. And it's so weird to think about that, like before I would be waking up in like a new place every single day, hours and hours away, and now I just fucking wake up and make a sandwich and then go back to bed. Nice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, like, you can look at it like one way, and like people don't normally live like that all the time. So you not living like that currently is not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's definitely an out of the ordinary thing that's not normal.
For sure.
So that being your normal makes your actual normal feel even like worse or like lamer or whatever. So when you're like, oh, I didn't do anything today, I'm like, didn't we all? Like nobody did anything today. Like I literally like got up, went to work, came home, took a nap, and then got up, ate dinner, and then went back to bed. And like the only thing is that like I just have to go to work.
Right.
And then at work I'm not doing anything. I colored. I colored at work yesterday.
Hell yeah.
That's it. I literally sit there, wait for the phone to ring, and just coloring. That's all I did.
Yeah. So yeah, that's like I'm like that's the kind of stuff I talk about in therapy now, and he kind of says similar to what you said, is like it's I kind of spoiled myself on accident by living this what did become normal. All this stuff was very normal, and it was everything like I ever imagined I ever wanted to do, so I was extremely lucky to be doing all that. But I don't think it's normal for anyone to go from like like not having very many friends to then people passing out and crying just by seeing you in real life and then going back to not leaving the house for like months and months. It's very strange on your mental, even if like it didn't die off and I still had the I'm like bullied in school, then like everyone seems to love me, like that amount of extreme is like no one should, weirdly enough, like go through that. I feel like it's I don't think it's not human to like
It's
you know.
the most random curveball
Yeah.
of life
Yeah.
to like go from one extreme to the
Yeah.
other, and like, it definitely messes with your brain if you do that.
Mhm.
Because for me, like obviously I was only just a fan watching from home, but aside from MDE, I was a really big fan of Issues, and um and they were pretty big at the time, like on Warped Tour and everything. And I would like make it, and I've always made it like my thing to, like go out and support the bands that I love as soon as, like, whenever they come to town. But like, I was 16 years old and I didn't have a job, and I didn't really have a lot of money in general. So I was kind of like, unfortunately, like slightly mooching off of my friends and being like, not necessarily asking them to buy me tickets, but I definitely did make people feel bad, where I was like, oh my God, like, I can't believe I'm missing this show. Like, I can't do it. Like, but, I tried my best not to, like, be complete, like, total, like, moocher and, like, just take everything and not give back. A lot of the time, like, if somebody bought me a ticket to go with them, I would make sure that I brought all the supplies for camping, or, I would make sure that they had, like, a good time, or that we got a good spot, those kinds of things. So I remember one time I was like, I'm not going to be able to see Issues, and it was their tour with Crown the Empire.
Sick. Damn. Yeah.
That they did. And somehow I had no money to buy a ticket, but I ended up getting a ticket and then getting VIP. But I don't remember ever buying it. Like, I don't know how that happened. Like, I genuinely just don't remember what I did to make that happen, but it happened. And on that tour, since I had meet and greet, I was the first person to show up, and so therefore the first person to meet and greet with the band. And I tweeted at Michael and I was like, hey, what's your favorite word? And he said trashy. Michael Bond from Issues. Yep. And then I was like, LOL, I'm gonna make a t-shirt that says trashy on it and give it to him as a gift, and then I didn't think much of it. I just thought it would be like silly if you wore it. Rarely did I ever expect to see, and like never do I ever expect to see or hear about anything of any gift that I give any band member. And I've always been very that's like my love language, is gift giving. So whenever I would meet one of my favorite bands, I'd make sure that I always had a gift to give them. And it's always just been like a natural thing. Like, I never really think about it. It's just like, oh, I'm gonna meet them, I need to make them a gift. Like, I need to give them something. Like, I don't know why, but that's always been my thing. And so I went to the show and I gave Michael the t-shirt that said trashy on it. Didn't think I'd ever see it again. And then, life goes on. And then later on in the tour, Tyler Carter posts a picture on his Instagram of him wearing my shirt. Yep. And I was like, not the one I wanted, but still, I'm fine taking that one. And like, he was like having a whole photo shoot in the shirt. And like, I hand painted that on my bedroom floor when I was like 15, 16 years old, gave it to him. And now here he is in like all these like fancy cities, like wearing my t-shirt, taking photo shoots, like, not like actual photo shoots, but yeah, like Instagram photo shoots. And I was like, oh my God, like, that's so crazy. And I genuinely believe like that was it. Like, oh my God, that was so cool. And then some more time goes by, and I was at home, and I don't remember exactly where I was, but I definitely think I was at home because I was homeschooled. And all of a sudden, like, my notifications like were blowing up, and they were like, you need to see this, you need to see this. And I was like, what am I looking at? And then I looked, and when Issues announced their merch lineup, because bands used to announce what merch they were taking on tour, there was a picture in the corner of a t-shirt that said trashy on it. And I was like, first of all, they stole my idea. Second of all, like, that's crazy. Like, like, I was more so flattered.
Yeah,
I was a child. I wasn't gonna make it. I wasn't expecting anything from it. So I saw that they made this gift into a t-shirt that they ended up selling on Warped Tour the whole summer. And, all the adults in my life were like, are they going to pay you? Are they going to pay you? Like, and I was just so excited that, like, I probably could have gotten into Warped Tour for free that year had I lied to Sky, because I messaged, or I think when Sky found out that I was the girl who made the t-shirt, like Skylar Record, who's also now in 21 Pilots, which is crazy. He DM'd me, and he was like, hey, like, are you going to Warped Tour this summer? And then I was like, Obviously, but I think he was asking so he could like, get me a free ticket to Warped Tour for making the shirt. And so I was like, oh yeah, duh, I'm gonna be there. And then later on I was like, oh, you stupid motherfucker, you could have gotten in for free.
Yeah.
I already had my ticket, but he asked me, he's like, hey, are you going to Warped Tour this summer? And I was like, yes, duh. And then he was like, awesome. Like, you can have whatever you want from the merch booth. Just tell the merch guy your name. And he's like, what city are you coming to? And I was like, oh, Phoenix. And he's like, okay, yeah, I'll just make sure that he knows who you are. And then you can have anything you want. And, yeah, so that was my payment for making Issues merch at 16 years old. Was getting, and I didn't even get that much because I was there by myself.
Yeah.
So I couldn't carry it all. Like, and by the time I got to the merch booth that day, because I actually did get there late on accident. By the time I got there that day, it was only extra larges left.
Yeah.
So I still got it.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh, I'll take it. And but back then I was like, oops, super skinny. Like now it fits me perfectly. But and then I got like some stuff. I got literally the only stuff I got for myself was I got the shirt and then the CD. And like I grew up like not having a lot, so I felt really bad asking for a lot, even though I knew I deserved it.
Right.
So I ended up literally just got a t-shirt, a CD, and a hat. And that was it.
Yeah.
That's all I got. And he's like, I think he's like, do you want anything else? And like I also knew in my head that I couldn't carry it around all day.
Yeah.
Like stuff. And so I probably should have just been like, oh, can you hold these for me? Being smart now, because there was a t-shirt that I really, really wanted, but I didn't get it because I felt bad asking for it. Because I knew like I felt justified in asking for the shirt that I designed, so I didn't feel bad about that. But I literally didn't even use that hat. I gave it to my stepdad. But yeah, no. So later on, I was like, maybe I should have taken a little bit more in the free ticket.
Yeah.
But and it not only did they do that, but since I got there late on accident, all the like how Warped Tour used to work was some bands would have meet and greets and they would be hosted by either their own merch booth tent or a different tent that they partnered up with the summer. So you would get there as early as you can, go stand in front of the like tent, get a wristband for the meet and greet, and then they'll give you time to come back, and then that's when you can meet the band.
Right.
And I missed that, and I like the only band I could get a meet and greet for that day was Tonight Alive, and I ended up not going to that one because I missed out on Issues because they were all gone by the time I had gotten there. So I was like a little upset about that, but my friend Aldi was a little bit older, like she's my age now, and so it's like cool for her to hang out with the band. So she had hung out with like the band and crew before, so they knew who she was, and because I went to so many Issues shows, I knew who she was, so we were like all kind of friends. Like I was friends with her, she was friends with the band. I was not friends with the band whatsoever. Like the communication with me and Skylar was the only communication I ever had. Everything was like public on Twitter. Like never once did anybody ever DM me. And so because me and Aldi were friends, they recognized Aldi, and then they recognized me because, I was also the trashy shirt girl, but also Aldi's friend. And so I was walking past the booth that they were doing the meet and greet at, and since they recognized me from all the shows, they were like, oh, like come on, like you like come take a picture with us, like you deserve it or whatever, like come take it. And like they were like, no, like skip the line, like literally just come over here. And I was like, I'm famous. Like I'm living the life right here. I'm like 16 years old getting like skipped to the live houses because the band knows me. Like, and like that was me. That was like one of my favorite Warped Tour memories was, that summer with Issues. And that was in 2016 before they kicked Michael out. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Michael is my favorite member, if you couldn't tell.
No, I know.
But yeah, that was one of my favorite Warped Tour memories. But that also like happened when I was like 16, and then like I also had like a slightly successful Instagram following, and and then like as MDE like kind of fell off, then my Instagram following also fell off because I wasn't making MDE content anymore.
Right. And
that also was like very sad for me because it felt like at one point I had so many friends online, and like had this like community, and then once MDE fell off, then my account fell off, and then like it kind of felt like the number of friends like started to dwindle, and it like didn't feel really great, but I definitely had like a good group of friends here in Arizona. because of that account, like I had two best friends, Ari and Lena, and they were both obsessed with MDE, and they were both obsessed with like Pierce the Veil, and that's how we all became friends. And like we met in person, and then we're like the three of us did everything together. And I wouldn't have had that friendship without like MDE or Pierce the Veil, like, which is insane. And but then a lot of my followers, like my top followers from that Instagram account, are now like some of my really close internet friends. Like Anissa is one of them. I see her at, and that's modern day Peter Pan.
Yeah, nice, cool.
I see her at a lot of shows we go to. Like if we're ever in the same area, we'll always like hang out with each other. But the first time we met was at your meet and greet.
Nice.
In 2016, and at MDE was one of those, which is cool because like now we're like really good friends. Like every day, kind of everybody swipes up on my story. But like a lot of my really good followers from that, like my fans from that account, are now my friends.
Nice, yeah.
Now, and we're all adults, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah. I was your biggest fan, and now I'm your friend too.
That's a story from fan to friend.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's really interesting, like coming to like looking back on, you know, being a teenager and being an adult, and like both of us being like, although one of us was quite literally famous, still being like I did a lot when I was like 16.
Yeah,
like,
right.
You know, like I was like doing it up, like I was doing a lot, and like, you know, not to like, you know, flex on you or anything, but I'm still doing a lot. It's just like kind of smaller a lot.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But also I'm an adult now, so I don't really have time to, you know, run off whenever I'm on. I still have to think about what I want to do for the rest of my life, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Capitalism.
Right, yeah. Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah.
I feel like I had my life more together at like 15, 16 than I do at fucking 25. It sucks.
Well, that's the thing. You don't really have to have too much together, like phone, wallet, keys back in the day.
Yeah. But I was like, I don't know.
That...
I grew up so much mentally. I had to like grow up faster than I think most people should, and now I feel like I don't know. You know, I
like it stunted your growth a little.
Yeah. I talked about that in therapy today too. Actually, like some things I had to push back that I would normally go through when I'm 16. I didn't get to go through it until I like was 24 or 25 because all this shit was going on, and then other things most people start doing when they're 25, I started doing when I was 16. It's weird. My whole fucking mind and body got all twisted up through this shit. Some good, some bad. And, you know.
I think that we're both kind of late bloomers for, you know, either of us. Like, most people that I know got jobs when they're 16 and started working. I wasn't allowed to have a job until I was 18. Mostly because my mom didn't think I was responsible enough for one. And then that's when I started working, and then, you know, I was working a ton of jobs and trying to support myself, and I tried to do the whole college thing. That didn't work. And then I didn't get I moved out pretty early, not like very early, but definitely a little bit earlier than like I feel like most people do these days, because I feel like unless you're going to college, you don't move out until you're in your 20s.
Right.
These days, like a lot of my friends and family like still live with their parents. Like my best friends, all of them live with their parents. Like all of them. Like not even just you, not just Emily.
Yeah.
Like my friend Nate, Jack, Hannah, like they all live with their parents.
Yeah.
And I've been living alone, and like it's mostly just because of privilege, because Kala was moving into his own apartment, and luckily like it was like a good time for us to move in together. And so at 19 years old we moved in together, and we've been together ever since, and now we still live alone together. But that's, I feel like, the only thing that I really have a leg up on most people. A lot of my other friends like went to school right away, or you know, went to college or whatever, or, you know, got actual jobs, you know.
Right.
And for me, like, and they all did their growing up too in their like teenage years, but I feel like I was off just in La La Land forever, that I never really stopped to think about actual things. Like I don't have a passport. I just got my driver's license.
Right.
So I took me so many years to kind of get over a lot of fears that I had
Mm-hmm.
about being an adult, even though I was already living on my own. Like I still felt like Ko was like my mommy taking care of
Mm-hmm.
me.
Yeah.
Like, and now I'm starting to realize that I genuinely do have to be an adult.
Mm-hmm.
And both of us, I feel like this past year have taken the initiative to grow up,
Yep. 100%.
like, and become adults,
Mm-hmm.
and both in our own ways, like you with your therapy and me with like reading books
Mm-hmm.
and like obviously exposing myself to like a lot of adult media, not like that, but
Yeah, I get you.
adult.
All right.
Um, but yeah, no. Now we're on our way up.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
Hopefully.
Bye bye.
Yeah, high five. Mentally, um, this year or like the past yeah, since the beginning of this year, um, has been like the best self improvement, like taking care of myself, making sure I'm like mentally all right, more than I've done in ever. I started taking it like super serious this year, and I wouldn't have been able to do all that and go to therapy as often and all that kind of stuff if I was still popping on, being popular and traveling and all that kind of shit. So it's a good thing.
I feel like you kind of have this expectation of, some people it's been just easy for them to grow up. Like people like that Koa knows, like he knows a lot of people who kind of just already know exactly what they're doing. But for like me and for you, I feel like we've never really had any idea of what we ever wanted to do. And then at one point we're kind of handed this thing that's like, you could do this. Or maybe you couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's very weird because for me, I've been doing art for a really long time, and during the pandemic, like I was living off of my art, but then like I just felt like I personally couldn't handle the amount of stress that I was under doing freelance art.
Yep.
And I just couldn't do it, and so therefore I stopped doing it. And like obviously with you we're doing YouTube, and then aren't doing it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But like for people who are normal, you get up, you go to school, you go to college, you finish college, you get a job, you get a house, you get a wife,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like I just for some reason either have an issue with it or just can't figure it out because I am obviously struggling with following the mold. I think it's just because I feel like it's like a mold that I have to follow, but also don't want to because I also want to do all these other fun, exciting things at the same time and tend to like shove the stick in the wheel, And but for you, I feel like it's more so like you can't run a race in your sleep. You can't physically get up, eyes closed, and like run a race in your sleep.
Right.
You kind of have to wake up, you have to get ready, you have to eat breakfast, you have to do all these things, and then you can start running your race.
Right.
And for me, in my head, how I see you is that, like, obviously, like you said, like, emotionally, like, in life, you've been stunted, and then now you're awake, but you still need to get ready to, run that race, and you're in that period of eating your breakfast, brushing your teeth, those kinds of things, which is a little lame because for me, I definitely don't grow up with as many privileges as other people in my life that I like because I'm obviously like very much around a lot of very wealthy people in my life, and so I don't grow up with the same privileges they have, so everything seems like it's not working for me, so it must be my fault. But it's not my fault, it's just kind of how things are. So I just need to try my hardest to keep going. And that's kind of how it is for you. Like, MDE wasn't your fault. Like, none of those things was any of your fault, but you're still in that situation. And now, because it was happening during that time, which is extremely good for your developmental everything, like being a teenager, learning from your mistakes at being a teenager is incredibly important. But I feel like I was doing that in my 20s for some reason. And I, which you can do, but now I feel like as soon as you've put your shoes on, put your clothes on, and start running that race, you'll be fine. I have zero doubt that you'll be able to, be successful in whatever you want to do.
Thanks. This is like therapy too. I just got home from fucking therapy, got on here, and here we are again. I really like it.
Back to therapizing you.
Yeah, I do appreciate it. I think that's all. That's all really spot on, actually, and a very cool way to look at it.
Yeah, I love using analogies because they make the most sense.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm kind of
And
stupid,
for
so
some
that stuff
reason,
helps.
well, it's hard to like grasp if they're like, well, you've been emotionally stunted, so right now you need to work on yourself to self-improve and get better at these things, and then maybe you could start thinking about all the other things that you should do in your life, which is a terrible way to look at it.
Yeah.
But if you're looking at it in that perspective, it feels a lot better,
Yeah.
and it feels more manageable and all those things.
It does.
That's how I've been kind of living my life and teaching myself how to adult. Because I was talking to my mom the other day about how her generation grew up with their parents not telling them how to do shit.
Yeah.
Like, how, like, because I didn't know how to pump gas until, like, I was literally, like, 22 years old. Like, I didn't know how to pump gas. And most people are like, well, why don't you just watch, like, so-and-so? Like, why don't you just watch your parents? Like, why don't you just try it? And I was like, because I had no desire to drive until now.
Yeah.
Like, very sorry. I just didn't want to. And, but also, like, my mom never asked, like, oh, maybe we should teach you how to do these things. Now is a good time to teach. Like, sometimes she would get the idea, but sometimes she wouldn't.
Right.
And she was telling me, like, well, I never really thought about it because, like, my parents didn't help me. So I never made the conscious thought to be like, oh, maybe Aly doesn't know how to do her taxes. Maybe we should do that. That was one thing that she did teach me how to do. But, like, you know, still, like, there's lots of things that you feel like you shouldn't teach your kids how to do because they're so natural, but they aren't natural things. Like breathing, eating, shitting, pooping, like those are natural.
Yeah.
Like I could figure that out on my own.
Yeah.
Walking, not so much.
Right.
But like, you know, she's like, well, I never really thought to like teach you because nobody ever really had the forethought to teach me things. I just had to figure it out on my own. And I was like, well, do you know how much time and like grievances you could save if you just teach somebody how to do something? Like, you know, like with Koa, I had to teach him how grief feels because he's never really been through loss. And then like when he lost his uncle, I was basically explaining it to him like, this is how it is. This is how it is for me. This is how it's going to be. And part of him just like was like, whatever. And then he came back around after going through grief and being like, you are completely correct. Like, but I struggled with the grief of my own father for so long because nobody taught me about grief. Nobody sat down to explain what happens when people die. Like, you know, it just happened and then we all, you know, dealt with it in our own ways and then we moved on.
Yeah.
But because I know that it was such a hard thing for me to get over, I wanted to share that knowledge with Koa and like teach him how to grieve, you know?
Yeah, that's really good.
Which is like kind of crazy, but I definitely know my mom tried to raise me well, but obviously she was a single mother and nobody taught her very well. So not saying my grandma was a terrible mother. I'm just saying like parents in that day and age in general, maybe not so great.
Yeah.
Like now we're just now learning about gentle parenting and like not beating your child to a pulp.
Yeah.
When you get angry.
Yeah, you can't do that anymore. Like, oh, you know, who would have known?
But yeah, definitely moving up and onwards. Yeah. Any other last thoughts you have?
Whoa.
Any other last ones?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to.
What's one thing that you feel like you haven't really talked about that you feel like other people would be interested to know or that you would want them to know, like about, you know, either MDE stuff or Warped Tour stuff or, you know, your quote unquote glory days.
Are we gonna do this more often, or is this a one-time thing?
I don't know.
We should do it more often. I think so. And then we can get more into like those kind of things. It took me a second to get comfortable because I'm fucking shy. But I think closing statement.
This is just how I talk to everybody.
Huh?
This is just how I talk to everybody.
Yeah, I don't talk to people.
I'm like, tell me your deepest, darkest secrets.
Yeah. I think for some reason my closing thoughts for this one is that, you know, I'm working really hard on myself, taking mental health extremely serious this year, basically putting all of my time into that right now because I'm able to have that time. Like, thankfully, you know, I'm lucky enough not to have to go out to a job right now. I don't, I don't know. I'm just in a very, very lucky spot to where I can just spend all of my time focusing on my mental health. And, I got sober off of alcohol. Today's my last day vaping nicotine ever. Thank you. Just working on my mental, physical health, all that shit. I don't know.
Sounds like you're doing the best. I mean, here's the thing. I'm reading this book, and it's like, by you purchasing this book is already you doing something good for yourself. Mm-hmm. For you to be able to read this fucking sentence in this goddamn book means that you are already self-aware enough to realize that you need help and you need to grow up, or you need to, be a better person. Yeah. And I feel like that's exactly, and it's probably the hardest step to take is, it's easy to stay in the same spot. Yeah. It's very hard to admit, like, I'm not a great person. Yeah. I could be better. I need to step up. I need to be an adult. Yeah. It definitely is a very overwhelming feeling of just being like, I'm going to do my best. And it's hard for me right now because I have been devoting myself to, becoming a better person and doing better. And then, also facing criticism from my own family about how I live my life or, those around me. And it definitely felt like taking like several steps back. And it really, really ruined my mental health for like this past couple of weeks. I've definitely been in a really bad spot, but things are working out again for me like they did before. So I'm, realizing how it feels to get back up from the place in which I just fell back down from. Right. Like I'm not used to getting knocked off when you're high feels even worse than when you're already, I know I'm lame, like, versus I've been doing better. Can't you see? Like I'm trying, and that's kind of what I'm going through personally in my life. But also ZZ quite literally just threw Penny off the top of thing over here, and I watched her like dangle from like one arm, like off the side of the thing, and I was like, do I help her? Like,
that's funny.
She's okay. But yeah, no.
Yeah, I've had a few where I'm doing really good, and then I have like some massive steps back. I'm on that right now, and this is like the worst one yet, and it's because I'm just getting sober off of everything. Like I lowered my nicotine from 35 to 3, and then I'm gonna be done today. And I didn't think about it, but like getting off of nicotine or things like that fucks your mental so bad. Like it makes you so depressed. Like you have withdrawals and you're tired. You can't fucking stay awake. And I didn't understand, like I didn't connect it somehow to that I'm getting off of nicotine. So it was so frightening. Like for like the past few weeks, I felt so bad that I was like saying to myself, like I'm fucked forever. Like I'm screwed. And I didn't know why. And, today went in therapy and talked about it. And it's just because getting off of something like that is so fucking, it's dangerous. It's like a good thing to do, but it's going to fuck you up for a few weeks, maybe a few months. It sucks. But understanding and hearing that that's why I'm feeling the way I do makes it, me a little bit more comfortable going through it.
It's definitely a lot easier to like cope with things when people point it out. They're like, that's grief, and you're like, because like a lot of the time, like the feelings that you feel inside are not the feelings that people try to convey in movies. So it's very hard to put two and two together to come to, like, I just found out this past year that I have been having like anxiety attacks my whole life and not realizing it. I just thought I was having dizzy spells, right? But I was indeed just having like a panic attack or like an anxiety attack because they kind of fully came into fruition, and I realized that that's kind of what's been happening this whole time. And I genuinely was like, I just don't feel good today. Yeah. Let me go lay down. Right. And, that was it.
Yeah, it's so weird that it can be right in front of our eyes, but we're like, I don't know why the fuck I feel this way. Yeah, it's strange.
On the road to recovery from being wild teenagers.
Yeah, I know. We got fucked up, and now we gotta fix it.
Yeah. Oops.
Yeah. Whoops. Sorry.
All right. Okay.
Cool.
I think that's good.
Yeah.
That's a wrap.
Cut. Nice.
All right, you suck. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that sucked.
Be like, all right.
Yeah, I just lied about everything.
I'm
doing crack
yeah,
now.
I was gonna say
I'm upping
that.
my nicotine. I'm about to have a beer.